Hello and welcome. I'm glad you could join me for today's peaceful painting session.
Our palette for today is titanium white, yellow ochre, phthalo blue, raw umber and ivory black. We're working on some toned paper. There's a link in the description box explaining how to make some if you would like to do the same. We're working with some diluted raw umber to make a sketch. And vases could be a tricky shape for some people. I know I find them difficult. So the easiest way I can do it is to make some parallel lines to start with, deciding on how wide the vase is going to be. And then I just join the sides up almost like a dot to dot. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll notice that I usually leave the background till nearly at the end. But today I'm going to put the background in first because I want the foliage to go on top of that. So I'm going to start with a mix of white and black to make a grey, and that's for the top half of the painting. And then for the tabletop it's just raw umber. We're just going to block that in now. Once your background's in, you can take a clean dry brush and softly blend out the lines. This is important when we're working alla prima, which means it's all painted in one session like we're doing today. We're going to mix together some phthalo blue and a little bit of white for the top half of the vase, and phthalo blue with a little bit of ivory black for the bottom half of the vase, the bit where the table will be shining through the bottom of the vase, so it will be darker in that area. We can carefully take some of the darker blue up the sides of the vases too. We're just going to take our brush now and soften the edges between the dark area and the light area. Now we're going to take some of the grey that we used for the background, and we're just going to add a few lights here and there in the vase, and I'll also make a stripe down the left hand side where the highlight's going to be. We're going to paint in the darker parts of the vase now, along the rim and down the sides using that dark mix of phthalo blue and ivory black. We're going to start adding details now, and we'll start with some raw umber to make the branches. I always find it easier to start branches at the bottom and then use the brush in a twisty motion to make the different shapes of the branches. Now, to create the illusion of the light shining through the glass onto the table, we need to make a blue shadow. And so we're going to take some phthalo blue, just plain phthalo blue, and then we're going to soften it with a clean dry brush to blur it in so that it blends in with the tabletop. Now we can mix together some yellow ochre and white to make a pale yellow color for the blossoms on our branches. The blossoms really are just little dots, and then we'll put a tiny dot of raw umber in the middle of each blossom. Now if we mix together a little bit of our yellow ochre and some phthalo blue, we'll get a nice light green, which would be good just for a few green leaves here and there on our branches. Now we're going to add some form to our vases, make them look more 3D. We'll add a lighter stripe of phthalo blue mixed with white down the two sides of the vase, and then we'll darken the shadow underneath the vase and tidy up any of the edges that need fixing. Now we can go in with our pure titanium white, and we can add a few highlights to the vases, and we can add some highlights to some of the blossoms as well. We're just about finished. It's time to add a few final details. We'll just soften some of those lines and our edges. We don't want hard edges. And we'll reinforce some of the highlights if they get lost in the painting. And there's our finished study of 2 glass vases. Thank you so much for following along. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.